Hi, everyone, and welcome back to summer school. Today, we are here with a super exciting guest. He actually also hit me up, not that I'm trying to out people, but also hit me up. And I was telling him, I was like, man, I don't take a ton of people that hit me up, but this person specifically is going to be a super freaking fun time. He mostly only, actually, we'll ask him this in a second, but basically, I'm pretty sure he only shoots like film. I mean, we can ask in a second, but mostly shoots film. I know shoots a ton of it, and I feel like we've been kind of Instagram friends. I feel like you've commented on some stuff, whether good or bad, and I feel like I see you pop up. Maybe it's in like Threads. I don't know. Are you a big Threads guy these days?
I mean, I kind of was on it at first, and then it became kind of toxic and
No,
crazy,
it's
and
so scary. I like
I
don't
just
look at
was
it
like, I
that
don't want to be
much.
on this anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. It is a scary place. But man, Brjaan, I'm so stoked to have you on. I'm so glad that you ended up like asking if we could chat film because even though we have a good bit of people that do come on and chat film, I love everyone's different perspective because I genuinely feel like everyone does it for such different reasons. Like, I don't know, film is so subjective and each different person is going to have a different feeling when getting into it and deciding to do it for their professional work. So I'm stoked to chat with you. And I would love to know, do you shoot digital at all or are you only analog photo video?
So I haven't shot my digital camera since 2018, maybe
Wow.
2017. So since that point in time, for weddings or like my commercial work, I've been just shooting on analog, whether it's for stills or motion. Yeah, just film
Wild.
100%. Yeah.
With video, are you doing, when you say analog video, are you doing Super 8? Are you doing 16? Like what is going in that
Yeah,
world for
yeah,
you?
yeah. So I'm shooting both those formats. I've
Mm,
got to experiment with 35 millimeter too. That's a bit overkill for weddings, but
mm,
I've been on some commercial projects and with my friends who are directors or DPs who are also film buffs and who have shot 35. So I've kind of experimented and had some fun with that. But when it comes to weddings and like my own practice, like for commercial and editorial work, yeah,
yeah,
Super 8 was kind of like the entryway to what I was
yeah.
doing, and then quickly moved on to 16 millimeter. And I'd say I'm predominantly shooting 16 millimeter now, but I
Mm,
can still incorporate Super 8 when needed or requested or appropriate to the job.
yeah. Man, I went to a like 16 millimeter workshop once led by Mark Brown. For anyone listening, he
Mm.
also has a podcast episode. His work is really great. I actually didn't
Yeah, he's great.
quite know who he was at the time that I attended the workshop. I just saw that there was a like 16 millimeter Super 8 workshop in LA. And I was like, screw it. This sounds cool. I mean, like, I didn't even have any interest in doing video, but I was like, it would just be cool to watch these people work, you know?
Of course.
So I went and my Super 8 broke like the day of the workshop. And I was like, this is why I don't do this. I don't know. I think the anxiety film video is like another freaking niche. And I know people are scared of shooting film photo, but I think you can make film photo so foolproof. Film video, I don't know, it still scares me. Even if you had multiple cameras, it still just kind of like frightens me that something would go wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm actually more scared of digital technology because
Really?
I don't even know how many hard drives or SD
Mm,
cards just totally fucking die on me in the moment or after the fact, and there's no coming back from that. So I feel a bit more safe when I have that like reel of film in my hand. You know, obviously
mm,
there's no certainty that anything is turning out, but luckily I'm using, pretty high level cameras that should be doing the job and they're getting taken care of. I take them to the camera doctor at least once a year to kind of get checked up on and make sure things are working. But I get that anxiety of like the uncertainty, and I think that, I think that's just kind of the thrill and the excitement of why I love doing it. It kind of, my whole journey as a photographer has been about kind of chasing that high and that thrill and that anxiety
mm.
of the moment, or the anxiety of making sure you have to get something and deadlines and all that stuff. I feel like I thrive a bit more creatively in those kind of circumstances, but I can see why people are
Yeah.
hesitant to put it all on the line, so to speak, when it comes to doing that. So there's no, just like, I respect everybody's creative process, but for me, it's worth the risk, I guess.
No, for sure. I mean, I feel that same way with film photography because I have multiple cameras and I
Yeah.
like can hear like I feel like it really is learning also to like hear them. Like I didn't understand the sound of my Super 8 at the point that it kind of was like tweaking. And so had I
For
known,
sure.
I feel like I would have known better if that makes sense like with my
For sure.
film cameras I'm using now, I can like, I would know, I think at this point, if the shutter was having an issue. But
Exactly. Yeah.
when I first bought them, literally my shutter had broken on the shelf and I had no clue. Well, literally my G2, because I had never used the G2 when I bought it, and it will automatically like roll through pics. Obviously, it sounded like the shutter was opening for a long time, but I didn't quite understand that because I had just bought it. It still like advanced the film. That shutter curtain never opened. The whole roll was black. And I was
Damn.
like, man, what a freaking bummer.
Yeah, that
Um,
sucks.
but yeah, I think you do learn to almost like hear your cameras. But
100%. Like I
yeah.
have a Bolex. I think it's like it's on display there just because I was trying to look impressive to everybody. But it's a cool looking camera. But I could literally close my eyes and I could, if you like hit the trigger, I can tell you what frames, like what FPS it's set at. So like
Wild.
if if I'm shooting at 24 frames and I close my eyes and it sounds off, like I will know immediately. And I think that that's just like the process of learning your cameras, and I think the sound, like they're so old and mechanical that the
Mm-hmm.
sounds are like, it's like an old car, you'll know if the muffler or the engine is starting to, you might not know what the exact issue is, but you can tell like something's wrong. It's like a feeling thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with digital cameras, with the moment they break, it's over. There's no like anticipating
Yeah.
that, or there's no signs usually of the detrimental
Yeah.
end that's about to happen. So
That's
I
actually
completely agree
so
with you on
true.
that.
They literally just like turn off, like they're
That's
done.
it. Yeah,
That's
that's it. They
actually
fry.
crazy.
They get cooked. It's over.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's actually wild. And I feel like digital cameras will only be getting more and more and more. I mean, everything in life is just going to get more digital, which is wild. But man,
Yeah,
I jumped into all of this so freaking fast. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey, especially as someone who doesn't know you super deeply well. I introed you
sure.
so randomly. I would love if you tell us like your journey and if you did anything before this and how this all
Yeah,
evolved. I know that you had a past in like journalism and stuff, and I think it'd be super awesome if everyone
yeah.
heard that. So I'd love to
Sure.
know like a little bit more about your photo journey and what led to this like analog only style and
Yeah.
creation of who you are.
For sure. I mean, like it's a long. I mean, I'm gonna condense it, but it's a long story because
Yes.
I'm actually older than I look. But I've been a photographer only like
Hmm.
my entire like career in terms of jobs. I don't think I've ever had another job until, except when I was like maybe 16 and I worked
Mm-hmm.
at a movie theater and a restaurant or whatever in the kitchen. But like that's a whole other life ago. But in terms of like professions, yeah, photography was the only thing. And my family's from Portugal, so we're from Europe, and then I grew up in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada for
Yeah.
my geographically uninclined friends who don't know much about where I live. But so I grew up in Ottawa, and I was deeply connected to the skateboard scene there. I grew up skateboarding. I loved it. It was a big part of my life. And a couple of my close friends were like incredibly good skateboarders. And I just came from a household where like my dad, like even though we weren't like very rich or anything like that, my dad always invested in cameras and documenting our
Mm.
family. Like there's like this kind of cultural thing, with that side of the family about, images, and like it's important to have like pictures. And my dad always cared about that stuff. So he had, camcorders, Super 8 cameras,
Mm-hmm.
35 millimeter cameras. He spent money on that stuff because he really was passionate about it. So when I was growing up and skateboarding, I would like take my dad's cameras usually without asking, and I'd go and I'd shoot my friends. I'd shoot some skateboard videos, and I was just like loved that because I was like, well, these guys are so much better than me. Maybe I can contribute and be a part of this in a different way.
Mm.
And fortunately for me, a couple of those guys went pro, and then I got some opportunities to get some like jobs for like $50, selling some photos, getting some store credit at the local skate shop. And I thought
Crazy.
that that was the coolest thing. It was a lot of fun. So at that point, I was like, this is cool. I'm going to pursue, being a creative. And I always loved writing, and then I went to like an arts high school, and I was exposed to an array of art, and music was kind of like my main go-to outside of
Mm.
visual art. So then when I graduated high school, I was like, how can I blend like my love for writing and my love for music and visual arts? I kind of landed in journalism because it was this sort of easy career path for like all of these sort of practical creative elements that I had. I'm not sure why. I always loved telling stories. And I guess like naturally as I got older, I realized storytelling is a thing. I was doing that unknowingly in my teenage years. And I thought that that was so interesting. So I pursued that, and then I went to university for that, and then I got a job at first I did an internship at the Globe and Mail, which is like a really big newspaper here in Canada. It's essentially
Mm.
like our nationwide newspaper. So I got exposed to a lot of interesting opportunities, really, it like high level editors who were helping me like carve my path. And then from there, eventually I got a contract with the Toronto Star, which is Canada's largest newspaper by distribution, because I moved to Toronto for
Mm.
university, and it's a highly populated city. It's like a mini New York, I guess, in some ways, some can say. But so once I started working on the staff room there, my whole career was focused on being a photojournalist, and I was doing journalism, and that was what I was doing for 4 or 5 years. And I was like kind of shooting music and other things on the side, like as passion projects, but I was really like devoted to becoming a photojournalist. And then, long story short, that industry like imploded because social media came out, digital news started becoming a thing,
Mm.
newspapers started losing money, they started laying people off, me included. So I started kind of looking for other avenues, and then I answered a Craigslist ad just like for a music
Mm.
photographer. And unbeknownst to me, it was actually Country Music Television that did some kind of incognito Craigslist ad for looking for a photographer for a new television show that they were producing. And they really liked me, and like they loved my portfolio and the experience that I had in photojournalism, obviously, because I was used to being in like inaccessible areas with very inaccessible people and working in those environments. So I got a job on a television show there, and I worked there for 3 years as like a staff photographer, which was really
That's
cool. Really,
crazy.
yeah, really exposed me to like a lot of big names and like really big like stars. I'm not a big country music guy, which is maybe why they gave me the job, because they knew I wouldn't be so like starstruck or like
Yeah.
distracted by who I was working with. But it gave me a really cool insight to the industry, and being in a commercial like production and what that was like. And then I got exposed to working with the director and the director of photography for the show, and the producers, and they all really like liked me, and they like were willing to have me around. I was the youngest guy on set. They thought I was like really ambitious and that I was like doing something really cool and interesting. They let me experiment with analog because like
Mm.
obviously growing up I had film cameras. I took my dad's film cameras with me when I moved to Toronto, and I was shooting a lot of film just like for fun. And then even for the newspaper, for portrait and editorial assignments, I didn't have like timeliness. Like if it's things that need to be published same day or day after, they would be okay with me shooting some film for like portraits and stuff. And I had some stuff published with like analog, which was really cool. But then Country Music Television really kind of like took the leash off and let me do my own thing, which was really cool. And that like kind of exposed me to a lot of different things and different avenues and creativity, and working with like a team and a crew and all these things. But then behind the scenes, like over time, like I was making money shooting some weddings here and there, like
Mm.
as a second shooter. And then in 2015 is when I shot my own wedding for myself. I think at the time there was like this trend, like this unknown trend. I don't know, it was probably from a blog or something from the internet, where people were like seeking photojournalists to shoot their wedding, and
Oh.
they wanted storytelling. I really don't know, because I got like 5, 6, 7 emails like in a span of a week once, and I'm like, I'm not even a wedding photographer. I maybe published like one or two
Mm.
pictures on my portfolio from like my time second shooting, and kind of they're very obscure photographs. They were like and mixed in with news photos. And then people were like, yo, would you shoot my wedding? And then my wife, she was in curatorial arts, but was a really good photographer. And I was like, yo, like we should maybe do this.
Yeah.
And then 10 years of almost 10 years now of like shooting weddings because of some like accident. I'm lucky because being in Toronto, I'm connected with a lot of interesting people doing different weddings, and it's not like the standard maybe like banquet hall, like large kind of like classic wedding. Like the first few weddings I shot were like intimate at restaurants. They wanted like something interesting and fun. They really cared about like the storytelling of the
Mm.
photographs. So I was really exposed to this thing. I'm like, wow, the wedding industry could be interesting. And then
Yeah.
eventually Instagram became a thing. You share photos and things start snowballing, and then my wife is also a photographer, and she has a really successful wedding photography career and business that's like separate to mine.
Oh,
But
that's
we were able to
crazy.
kind of, yeah, and we were able to like amalgamate and become like this sort of behind the scenes duo, which has been great, because like now that filmmaking is such a big part of my career, that some people hire me for video, they'll hire her for the photography. So we have a lot of success with that kind of diversification of our business, so to speak, without being too boring. But yeah, like that's kind of like the cliff notes of like the journey. It started off with like skateboarding and getting some
Yeah.
free shirts and free skateboards, and then it turned into like a wedding photography business that kind of avalanched on its own without me really pursuing that, because like I always kind of cringed at the idea of shooting a wedding, and I thought it was kind of
Same.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
I didn't want my photojournal, like all my best friends are photojournalists, and I was like kind of embarrassed to be like, oh, I'm shooting a wedding, they're gonna think I'm such a loser.
Yeah.
But like I think as the industry has evolved over the last like 8 or 9 years, I think they have a lot of respect for what I do, especially after shooting with me on certain weddings. They realize that it's not this easy kind of show up and it's like cookie cutter as people make it out to be. But so it's been kind of like a fun journey, and I'm here now, and I'm like pretty committed to weddings now. I'd say like 75% of the work I take on in a year is devoted to that, and then 25% everything else is like devoted to projects that I want to work on regardless of budget and stuff. But I think weddings help give that foundation. I'm sure it's the same
Hmm.
for you, where like you do the weddings and then it gives you the room to do the other things, where back in the day like you had to really commit and stick to one thing, whereas like weddings wouldn't be something that you would want to stick with. But like now it's kind of the opposite, whereas weddings are a bit more consistent and provide a bit more freedom for me to pursue other creative endeavors, which is cool.
Man, there's so much to unpack. First of all, so
Yeah, I know. I'm
crazy and
sorry.
cool
I'm
that
I'm
you,
I'm in my 30s, so like it's been a long
dang.
time. And I've been doing this since I was like 18. So, you're looking at like 12 to 15 years of me behind a camera. There's a lot that happens in that time frame, especially if you're still trying to stick with it. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
ebbs and flows and changes that you have to evolve with. But yeah,
I definitely think just off appearance, everyone, I guess, go to YouTube. I don't know if I would have assumed you'd been doing this for like 12 years, which is crazy. Not that I make assumptions, but I love talking to people who have been in the industry for a good period of time because honestly, I think it is pretty common that a lot of wedding photographers come and go in maybe like a 3 to 5 year span, maybe
for sure.
seven if they're lucky, and
Yeah.
I talk about that sometimes. And I like talking about sustainability and, ways that some people like keep going, like you said,
Yeah.
you have that 25% that probably helps you be creatively fulfilled to keep going with the weddings as your
Yep.
main thing. But okay, first of all, the skateboarding side, so cool. Your story is so unique and like so not the traditional person, the photojournalism. I freaking love it. I'm trying to think, I have to ask with the wife, did you guys were you guys together and then you both pursued wedding photography separately of each other, or did you meet her in the industry? Like, how did this go down? Because that sounds like a lot of people's like biggest fear would be being in basically the same industry as your significant
Yeah.
other, both trying to make money.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting question, because well actually we met in university. So
Okay.
another side of me that people would never guess was I was a varsity athlete, and I
Okay.
played
Yeah.
volleyball, and my wife was also a varsity volleyball player for the same school. So I don't know how much experience you have with athletes, but they're not exactly the most creatively inclined
Yeah.
bunch. So when my wife and I met each other, like through obviously like because you travel with the women's team and the men's team travel like for all like the
Yeah.
games for the weekends, you're spending weekends together, you're on the bus, long road trips and stuff. And when I met her, and she was like in new media design, which is like this like computer science like art program, and then she
Hmm.
specialized in curatorial arts. And besides her, there was like maybe one guy on my team that was in filmmaking. But besides the three of us, I feel like most people were like in business or like science, engineering. So like I didn't really relate to those people. So when I met Brjaan, she was like cool and artsy, and I was just like, wow, like you're super interesting, and like I wanted to. It was easy to talk to her, and she was always a
Hmm.
really good photographer. So I'd help her with like photography projects for school, and she would help critique like my portfolio, build my
Hmm.
website. So we basically started on different paths. Like when I was working for the newspapers, she was actually working as a curator in a photo gallery in Toronto, which was really cool. So she was like exposed to the art world, and she was really experienced with that. And then weddings kind of happened by accident because she was so creative, and I was like, okay, like I'm like being hired to do a wedding, I'm going to bring you because you're going to take pretty pictures while I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. So she was kind of like my support system and my crutch for weddings. And then she just ended up being so good at it that I was like, hey, like you should just maybe do this. So like while
Yeah.
I was pursuing journalism, she was taking on like work for like fashion like blogs, and because Toronto has so much to offer, so she was kind of like
Yeah.
dipping her toes in a few different like editorial industries. And then eventually she latched onto weddings and she really enjoyed it. And then she was kind of like, I didn't want to interfere with her like rise and her success. So I just like supported her and I was like, look, take on your own work. People love what you do. Like, you're great. And then eventually things kind of came back and blended together. But it was kind of like we were on different paths, and then we kind of did weddings kind of on our own, and then eventually we're like, hey, like, it's nice to do this as a team. But like, we don't necessarily advertise ourselves as like a husband and wife duo, because we're not really. Like, we can be hired individually. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, she had a wedding somewhere and I had a wedding somewhere else from different clients.
Crazy.
But it was like cool to have somebody on the back end of things, having an extra set of eyes. And I think, for example, like, summer school and that community, I think having a community and having somebody be
Mm-hmm.
along for the ride is so important. But I was just so fortunate that like my partner in life was able to be also my partner in my craft. And I
Yeah.
think that we've both been able to sustain ourselves and evolve and grow in the industry because we have that other person to lean on and to kind of help with the workload, and
Mm-hmm.
also kind of help with like the creative evolution of what we're trying to accomplish as artists and as like business owners, essentially.
Man, so does she also only shoot analog or does she shoot
Yes,
digital?
she only shoots film too.
This is
Like,
crazy.
that's, yeah. So we both only shoot film.
Wild.
Yeah. So it's pretty great. I mean, I
That
helped
is
her gain
so
the confidence to
niche.
do it, but yeah, it is hyper niche. But
No, yeah.
like, it's funny because like I think a lot of people focus on film these days, and they're just like, I'm a film photographer, even though they're shooting like a bit of like multiple mediums. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of step away from that, and I'm trying to let my work be what stands out, and then like kind of explain to people that the medium is
Is
part of the
film.
process to
But the photos
enhance
are the
that.
photos. Yeah.
But the photos are the photos, exactly. And I think people like that I work with like are usually pretty creatively inclined or like artistically inclined, and they appreciate that we shoot film. But I wouldn't say that people like, some people will find us and be like, I love that you shoot film and I want that. But I think people first, they say, I love your photos and I love the feeling that I get
They
from
don't care
looking at
how
your
you're getting the
pictures.
photos. They just want the
Exactly.
photos. That's
Exactly.
super
And I think,
cool.
yeah, so I think that that's more important. I think a lot of people get lost in like, I need to shoot film because it's film. It's more like, can film help bring your work to that feeling that you're trying to display to the people that you want to work with. And I think a lot of people, because of social media and like all these things, they're getting trapped and they're getting kind of inundated with all this information about like, this is what I need to do to be successful, when at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day it's about kind of crafting your creative eye and letting your work be your work regardless. Like, if I picked up a digital camera and shot a wedding tomorrow, I would hope that I can still make amazing images that people would love and that they wouldn't care that it was on
Yeah.
digital. But for me as a creative, like, I think in analog, and it helps me create the images that I want to create. So it kind of goes
Mm.
hand in hand that way, versus me being like, oh, I'm just going to shoot film as like a selling feature to kind of work with cool people who think it's cool. Like, I think that's like a backwards way to think about it. I think you have to really, hone your craft first, and as an artist, and then let the medium choose you in some way.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I kind of went through like a not a I'm going only film, but like a I was mostly only sharing film at least for like a brief season. And then I went through like a oh, I think I like digital again. Like I went through like a resurgence
Yeah.
with my own like digital side of myself. And the interesting part is the hard part with me is I mean maybe I could one day, but I still love some digital images sometimes. So I think it's like it was interesting to kind of own like being hybrid, not because I felt like the client needed me to shoot both, but because I also enjoy shooting both. That was
Yeah.
cool last year. Because I think sometimes people only are hybrid because they feel obligated or because of
Yeah. Yeah.
sales, like to get clients that want film and stuff. But I'm like, you know what? I still love a good digital image. I still love a good digital, like double exposure, like something that like is harder for me to accomplish on film and I might not be able
Yeah.
to accomplish fast enough on a
Sure.
day like a wedding. But that's also potentially part of who I am. I don't work super, super, super fast. And so I have to have things sometimes that can work faster, not because I'm not willing to slow down, but because my brain, I've been around so many photographers recently, and I'm like, I think my brain literally goes a little slower than some. Like, I'm
Hmm.
like at a shoot and I just like, I can't move that fast. Like, I just can't. It's just not who I am. You know what I mean?
Same.
And that's fine. And I feel like I attract clients that kind of align with that too. And I sometimes get shyer clients, people that don't want to go super fast or maybe it stressed them out. But also probably why I end up liking film, but also the reason that I keep digital around, I think sometimes. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. There's a convenience that cannot be replicated with film in
Yeah,
terms of like shooting digitally. Like the convenience is very obvious. The cost effectiveness is also very obvious.
so
My bank
true.
account and my accountant's like, "Are you sure you want to do
Are you
this?"
sure you want to continue?
Yeah, like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But if
Uh,
I showed you my film fridge, you'd be like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" It's
I
pretty
would
bad. I had to
love
buy
to see
literally a
that.
whole few. Yeah, I'll send you a picture after, and I just refreshed my load for 2026. Fuck, it's crazy. That's almost 2026. But yeah, I just like restocked for the year, and it's just like my fridge is like overflowing with film, and it's just like, oh my god, it's almost like
That's
a problem. So,
wild.
but it's if it's necessary, obviously, and and like it was a conscious business decision. Like you have to run the numbers too. Like film is not
Yeah,
cheap, and
no.
you have to ask yourself if like financially it makes sense for you and like what you're doing. And obviously it's not as accessible as I wish it was, but at this point in our career, like we don't want to compromise on that. And I think people are grateful for what we do, and like I'm pretty happy, and it's like made me feel a lot more fulfilled, and it's like
Hmm.
really helped with the creative workflow and like the process of shooting weddings. I think it's made it a lot more digestible for us, and it's just been like a good decision for us and for
Yeah,
what we do. And I'm happy to make a little bit less money or have a
yeah.
little bit more expenses just for that sort of thing.
You made that sound great. I'm happy to make it a little bit less. No, a lot a bit less. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You can
Yeah,
charge more,
no, it's true.
yes, because you're shooting film. Sometimes depends, but dude, man, sometimes I think about like even I went and shot just for a workshop in Italy recently. And I was like, you know what, at workshops and retreats that I go to these days, I really prefer to like shoot film because
Hmm.
I know that I'm never going to touch these digital images if I take them, if we're being honest. I don't know, we're busy. These aren't paying clients. I just, I'd rather just shoot film. And
Of course.
film is also hard in a workshop environment. But man, I got back from Italy and I didn't even take that many compared to some people. Some people would take like 30, like shoot like 30, 40 rolls in Europe. But I got back, I think, with like 12. And I was like, okay,
It's a
that's a
lot.
lot considering I was not technically being like paid to
Yeah.
take these photos, which is crazy. And I was like, kind of questioning myself. I was like, should I have done that? Like,
Yeah,
it's like not that cheap. I don't know what that would actually be, but that's probably at least $500 in some capacity by the time you
probably. Yeah.
buy and scan, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, like there's some like cost saving things that we do that make it more
Mm.
accessible. Like I have a lab scanner at home, so like I scan all my film,
I was gonna
our
ask if
film,
your
like
developer
Brjann's
scan your
too.
film.
Yeah, I definitely don't develop it. Like that's like crazy scientists, like science level stuff that I'm not like smart enough to do, and like calculations and timing. And my
Yeah,
bathroom isn't that big, so like I don't know if I have like
exactly.
the space to do that. But so I have like a great lab here in Toronto. Like they're probably like maybe one of the best labs in North
Hmm.
America. If I'm being honest
Ooh,
with you,
wait, you
they're
should drop the
incredible.
name because we have a lot of Canadians.
Yeah, so they're called Grain Nation, and they're
Cool.
in Toronto, downtown, and Chinatown. They literally have every type of um, film processor. So if you shoot E6, ECN1, C41, whatever, like black and white, every type, they have every kind of machine and multiple types of processing machines, like hand,
Hmm.
dip, dunk, normal processing, whatever. And they have every kind of scanner. So if you get
Hmm.
your stuff scanned by them, like you can get it scanned on Noritsu, Frontier, Imicon, Pacon, literally like Nikon, cool. They have everything. So
That's
they're
crazy.
absolutely incredible. They're like the exact kind of people you want to work with. They're like it, and I say this in the most respectful, the best way possible, because I am the same. They're like film geeks, like
Hmm.
nerds. Like they just like nerd out to that stuff, and that's exactly who I want handling my film, because I go there and I'm dropping off like about 100 rolls a week, like during our busy season.
Ooh.
And it's just like you really need to have that trust with people. But it's nice to have like some of the creative process stay in house with like the scanning and the editing and all that stuff, and it does help save some money. And then they still scan some of my work as well, like throughout the year if I'm busy or if I'm traveling a lot, or if there's like a quick
Hmm.
turnaround on a project, I'll get their stuff scanned because they get it to me in 24 hours, which is amazing. But yeah, so it's like finding a good lab is important, but there are
Yeah.
cost saving techniques if like you're a predominantly film shooter, and scanning is definitely one of the more costly things that you're going to be paying for by shooting film a lot. So you got to run
Okay.
run the numbers on your end.
So scanning, I want to know what is your like go-to setup for scanning from home because I recently saw I don't know if you follow this person, but I was trying to like I was kind of pining on getting him on the podcast too. I'm pretty sure. there's two people that I could have seen this on their stories, but I'm pretty sure it's Daniel
Mhm.
Knight Harris. I don't know if you know him. Film
Sounds familiar,
shooter.
but I'm not 100%. I mean, I maybe recognize like the Instagram page. Like that's usually how I can
Honestly,
remember
same.
people.
I'm like, I hope it
Yeah.
was actually him, and I'm not just saying it was him. And meanwhile, this person like doesn't shoot film. That would be funny. But I swore I saw in his stories that he was scanning, like camera scanning, and it was like
Oh.
automatically feeding the film.
Mm,
And I was like, wait,
yep.
that would be so. That would even just it automatically like advancing would like to me really help the efficiency of this. And I
Of
don't know,
course.
you probably know exactly the thing I'm talking about, but I don't scan. I don't have time or space or capacity. I mean, I have like a Epson V600, like I'll scan my Polaroids and like I could scan some
Sure.
film if I wanted to
Yeah.
on it, but I don't. I would be intrigued. Like I would maybe do it once
It's
for
a
like a
pain.
personal project, but I just, especially the baby now, time is
Of
money,
course.
man. I'm
Time
like,
is
take it
precious.
away, scan the
Yeah. Yeah.
film,
Yeah. Exactly.
But what are you doing? What are you scanning on? Do you even know what I was talking about? Because I was like, wow, that
Yeah.
looks really freaking cool.
I think Cinestill like came out with something that might
Mm,
be doing that. I'm not sure. I don't scan that way. I actually have a Noritsu that I use here at
no, you
home.
do
So
not.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
so
I've
fun.
been shooting film for so long that
Yeah.
I remember when labs were closing and people were like, film is
Just
dead.
offloading stuff.
And
Yeah.
just offloading stuff for pennies on the dollar. And like I picked up so many great cameras. I picked up some, and I told myself, I'm like, look, if I can shoot just black, like in my head, I'm like, black and white film won't go away. So at the very
Mhm.
least, I can do that. And I also, yeah, so like I've had flatbed scanners because if I
Yeah.
shoot like 4x5 or Polaroid, it's the best thing to scan on. And then I had like a pack on, which is a Kodak scanner that I
Mm.
used to scan like my 35 millimeter work. And then eventually I had the opportunity to get a Noritsu. So I have that, which is like so easy. I feed the film in,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a 15-minute process per roll if I'm like tweaking things, and then it comes out and I can, have full creative control. But, if you're scanning each frame individually and you're shooting like 50 rolls, time will be,
Yes.
it'll be brutal. It's grueling, and I don't recommend it, but it's like, if you have the time and that's the only way to make it work for you, then there's a lot more resources now than when I first started scanning film. Like when I was first scanning film, it was like flatbed only or like super
Hmm.
shitty scanners with terrible software, and you had to run like Windows XP through like 17 different computers, and you had to plug in 15 different things. It was a nightmare. So I don't recommend that, but like now I have a dedicated setup, and then I just scan like that.
I mean, and your wife shoots film too. Does she scan her own film too with it? Like, what a powerful, you guys both have the equipment.
Yeah, so she doesn't scan, like she can, she knows how, but like I like doing it. Like I
Oh,
love
you just do it
scanning,
for
and
both of you.
I do for both of us. Yeah,
That's
because
so
like
kind.
if I'm in the zone, like I'll just
Yeah.
like set up in my office. I'll start feeding, and then I just like, I'll be in here for like 7 8 hours, 9 hours sometimes, and I'm just like listening to music, podcasts sometimes, of course, but like
Yep.
I love just like putting on some music and just like zoning out and getting into like this emotional headspace. And
So
then I'm
fun.
scanning, I'm seeing the pics, and I'm just like, it's like this really, like, it's a very zen thing for me to do. But I can understand for some people it's just like a super stressful, like, do not talk to me about doing this. It's like the
Maybe
worst
I'll
thing
end
on
up
earth.
doing it. You never know. When someone talks to me about something, I'm like, okay, now I need that. But what's crazy is summer camp is live for everyone listening to this, actually. Summer camp is live. It's next May 11th through the 15th. So I want to tell everyone about it real
Amazing.
quick because this segues into just briefly. It'll be a brief little chat. But if you're still listening, summer camp 11th through the 15th. If you're not in summer school, get in summer school if you're listening like the day this drops, which would be, I don't know what day, but if you're listening
Soon.
to it on that day. Anyways, it launches to the public tomorrow, which means the public tickets, it could easily sell out. So, anyways, if you're listening to this when this drops, you should go sign up because we're going to be having a live film developing and scanning workshop at it. Doesn't that
Oh,
sound so
nice.
fun? We're going to
That's
literally
sick.
like shoot a roll of film, a lab from Seattle that I love, that it's a fun full circle. I actually bought one of my first pro like film cameras off of this guy and like years ago. And then he started a lab. And since I've been in LA, it has succeeded. And now we're back. And I pitched it to him because we had film developing at the last workshop we had. And it was just so fun. Like you're all at a photography workshop. So we all like shoot a roll and develop it together. It was just cute and like
It's magical.
fun, to do together. And I told him that idea and I was like, do you know anyone that does that? Because I potentially want 30 people there. And I understand that's very niche for someone to have all of that supplies and the ability to lead a class like that, you know? And he was like, I want to do it. I used to lead classes for like troubled teens and the elderly, like put me in. I want to do it. And then he said, but if I'm going to teach them how to develop film, I want to show like basic, even camera scanning so that not only
Hmm.
can I equip them and show them how to develop it, I can actually give them the means to like do it full circle if they were to go home. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. You're in. Like, you're freaking in. So that's super fun. Summer camp is here. We're already halfway sold out. I think we've already sold over halfway. I think we've already sold 12 out of the 20 spots, and it's not out to the public yet. So if you're listening to
Amazing.
this and there's any tickets left, definitely go grab them. But I just wanted to mention that side because I was like, we're talking about developing and scanning. We're not
Yeah.
necessarily talking about camera scans, but I think it will be a really fun little class. And how cool out of someone that runs a lab that he was willing to also show people how to scan. Most people wouldn't do that because they'd want you to
Yeah.
send it to their lab, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. That's super
Yes.
valuable.
So
Super
kind
valuable
of
information.
him. Yeah. I think it'd be
Yeah.
really fun.
I think that's amazing. Yeah, just even having the foundation of like knowing how to do that, even if you
Even if
do
you
end up
don't
sending
do
it to
it.
the lab,
Yeah.
like then you can know at least what they're like thinking or what they're doing. You can ask questions. I think building that relationship and getting the foundational knowledge of that stuff is super important if you're shooting film. So I think that
Mm.
that's a really cool and fun opportunity. And that's happening on the West Coast. Like you're in
Yes.
Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just came back to Seattle, and the original vision of summer camp when it birthed like 2 years ago was always kind of campy, like summer camp.
Hmm.
I kind of wanted it to be kind of outdoors, rejuvenating. You know, last time we had yoga, I'd be open to breath work. I don't know. I just want people to not just come to take pretty pictures. There'll be
Of
pretty
course.
pictures, but I would rather people come and like connect and grow as like a person and an
Of
artist. And I
course.
think for people who haven't attended a photography workshop, you oftentimes are like, I gotta go for like the content, for the styled shoots. And it's like, then you're at the workshop and you're actually like, wait, that's like the least valuable part of this entire experience, in my opinion. Like the things I've
100%.
learned and grown and just experiences I've had from just being around like a group of individuals in my field that like, you know, you're all staying together for like 5 days. Like that's crazy. The experiences that will come out of them is just like world changing. But anyways, yeah. So now that we moved back to Seattle, I was like, summer camp 2.0 has got to happen out here. And
Of
I
course.
know this venue owner that owns a venue called the Griffin House, which was a venue that kind of like was life changing for me. I shot it there when they were first starting, and so I ended up on their list. I've just had some wild weekends, like at that venue specifically. So my heart is like very attached to them. I was supposed to shoot the owner's wedding back in the day. COVID happened,
Amazing.
but they bought out or inherited. I don't know. I didn't ask, but this other venue, like 20 minutes away, called Wind Mountain Ranch. So it's this ranch that they've been renovating and making like much nicer. I mean, last time I visited, the main reception hall wasn't even there. And now it's this like glass luxury ranch barn thing. It's really cool. And there's 7 cabins on site. So it sleeps like 30. And so they agreed that we could have summer camp at the ranch and like shoot at the Griffin House too if we wanted to and stuff. So that's like the logistics side. It's like outside of, you'd like fly into Portland if anyone was flying, but it's like kind of
Hmm.
outside Hood River area, which is just this
Okay.
city.
Hmm.
I love the nature there. So pretty. Now I'm ranting, but all of you listening, if there's still tickets, you should come because it's just gonna be so fun. I'm so excited.
Yeah, yeah, it's like very Twin Peaks out there, isn't it? Like a
There,
very Twin Peaksy kind of
I haven't seen
like
Twin Peaks, but I think so.
okay, then we'll circle back to that once you
No,
watch the show.
I need to watch
It's a
it because
must
I
watch.
shot
It's a
in the
must.
diner from Twin Peaks recently, and then I have a wedding client who's getting married at the venue that was also used in Twin Peaks. So it probably is very Twin Peaks, considering like most of Twin Peaks was filmed like out here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm actually editing right now that shoot that I'm talking about, the diner in Twin Peaks, which I've never watched the show, so I don't know, but you probably know what I'm talking
I
about.
do. It's
The
fucking
diner.
cool. It's
Yes,
very cool.
I just
Yes,
shot at
that's
it
sick.
recently for an
That's
engagement
amazing.
session. Yeah, it was
That's
fun.
rad. That's
It
very
was
cool.
cute. It was like some parts were hard because we didn't want to wait until they were closed, which they offered to us. like, hey, you can shoot here when there's no one here.
Yeah.
But then they didn't want to do that till 9. But the sun sets at like 4. So
Yeah.
what would we be doing for 5 hours? So we just shot in it while it was open and stuff. But I didn't want to use flash or like artificial light inside of the building, while it's open to
Of
the
course.
public. So I just
Yes.
had to work with like an extremely low shutter speed. And dude, I was shooting film at like 1/15. And I think it
Sweet.
was still pushed and I was still shooting with it at 1/15. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was freaking dark inside, but I just held my breath. And I think only 2 ended up being shaky. They weren't that
There you go.
bad. Yeah.
It's possible. It's
It's
possible.
totally
If
possible.
you just got to commit. You just got to commit to
Just
the
gotta hold
process.
really freaking still.
Yeah. Sniper hands. As I
Yeah.
call them. Yeah.
Man,
So,
do you push your film ever? I would love to know that. With
I
weddings?
I don't actually. I will rate my film like
Mm.
in low light, like at box speed at the worst, and then I often I'll pull my film if I need to.
Mm.
But I've never been into pushing film just because it like kind of creates like a bit more of a muddy image. And
Yeah.
if I need to use flash, then I need to use flash, or if I need to use like high ASA film, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
Like, some film like Cinestill, like I'll push that one to like
Yeah.
3200 or 16, but that's like made to be pushed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
like other films, like, I'll just shoot portrait 100. It's, you know what, like it has to be like so dark
Yeah.
for you not to be able to get a picture, that like in that situation, it's like you're better off just using flash anyways, because there's like the lighting isn't like there's nothing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So but yeah, like I mean, pushing your film is a smart move. I just personally, like aesthetically, for like the results, like I don't really like it as much for
Mm-hmm.
when I do it. But luckily I have like really fast lenses, and I'm using like really small and light cameras, so that if I am shooting at like a 15th of a second, it's not like, oh shit, I'm screwed. Like
Yeah.
it's usually pretty manageable and doable, and at worst you get like a cool artistic interpretation
Kind
of
of
the scene. So
blurry. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I had a super dark wedding. Oh, when was it? Like I think it was last year, and I had to push film because it was the ceremony that was freaking dark. I'm not going to use flash for me. I'm not going to use flash in it during a ceremony. I just feel like while the image could be cool, it's going to take away from the experience for everyone.
sure.
And I
Yep.
think if anything, sometimes flash can look cheap during a ceremony, and I really want the ceremony to actually, in the images, look and feel how it was to be there in the moment, at least for the
Yeah,
ceremony.
I
Dancing,
agree.
flash. But like
Sure.
ceremony, so freaking dark. I think I pushed Delta 3200 to 64. Crazy.
Nice.
And
Yep.
then I pushed Cinestill all the way up to 32. And I tell
Mhm.
people about this all the time. I should show the images at some point because I actually they were great. It wasn't that
Yeah,
bad. I
that's right.
only normally push Cinestill, so I don't know what that would have probably not looked good if I pushed like Portrait 800 to 3200. I've never even tried it. But yeah, it wasn't horrible, and definitely I think I would not have survived at like 4 or 800. It was just so dark.
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. Like I think people are very scared of like film in low light, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like film is like has amazing latitude, and
Mm-hmm.
like it could really suck up light like really well. So like even in like a really ambient scene, and then if you're getting good scans, like the grain
Yeah,
just looks great, and you see
yeah.
detail, and it just has like a vibe. You know what I mean? And if you lean into that, and you know how to, you know what to anticipate for the results, I think it's easier to make something intentional. So I think that that's cool that you did that, and I feel like more
It
people
worked
should
out.
be willing to do it. Yeah.
I know. Now I'm like, I always need Cinesta with me just in case.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's hard, like shooting Portrait 400 during the daytime and then shooting Cinestill towards reception while I do it. The colors I'm getting obviously are just a lot different out of just
Yeah.
the fact that they are much different stocks in general.
That's right.
That part's the only part I've ever struggled with, is wanting those to meld better together cohesively in one gallery.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so like, I mean, I have the advantage of scanning my own film, and working
Yeah.
directly with the lab when they scan. But you can make like you can shoot Cinestill like 800T in daylight, and get a pretty interesting like cinematic looking
Mm,
film vibe. But you really have to know how to manipulate the scan to
mm-hmm.
kind of get there, and then you obviously have to do a little bit of post processing work to the file. But it's not like made for
Yeah.
that, whereas like their daylight film would be better, or like just shooting like a low speed film would be better. Like I don't
Yeah.
like Portrait 400 that much. It's like probably my
Ooh,
least
what do you
favorite
like? What
film.
do you use?
If I had to pick one film for the rest of my life, I'd probably pick Tri-X, which is like
Mm,
obviously a black and white
yeah.
film, but that's like my favorite film. It's like associated with like photojournalism and like iconic imagery throughout like humanity. So like I love like just like the timelessness of that film stock and the flexibility that it has, because you can push like Tri-X to 3200 and it looks pretty
Hmm.
awesome actually. But if I had to pick a color film, it's like probably Portra 160 is like my favorite, and then Portra 800 is like my second, like close second behind. I
Luckily
love Cinestill
you
too. It's really cool.
luckily you live East Coast. I don't think I get away with Portra 160 here. It's freaking dark 24/7.
Too overcast. Yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I
Yeah.
shoot outside, I love shooting it. It looks really good. The colors are rich and beautiful, and it just like
Mm,
has like the perfect amount of grain and like perfect amount of detail to really elevate, especially in medium format. But I mean, all film stocks can look a thousand different ways, so it
so
kind of
true.
depends on like what you're shooting and like what you're going for. But yeah, that like for me, for like my combination of gear and film and scanning, like those are probably my two favorite film stocks for sure.
Man, I love that. I feel like I can't believe we've already chatted for like 45 minutes because
Yeah,
I feel like we could talk about so many things literally forever.
yeah, I know.
Man,
I feel like we didn't talk about anything. Yeah.
I know. I'm like, what do we want to dive into now? I know that your creative approach is different, and I feel like we could talk on gear and film and everything for so long. But I feel like
Mhm.
your creative mindset, you're kind of into that side of things too, and like. I mean, you basically shoot analog only. Obviously, you're into like being creative and prioritizing yourself and your art and stuff. I want to chat on that subject a little bit, and maybe we
Yeah.
start with. I ask a lot of people this, like if you
Mhm.
could kind of tell like younger you something, what would you have wished you had told them back in the day? I'm like, maybe that could be a good thing to start us off with because I just enjoy what people say. Everyone says something different.
Like as a creative or just like as a
Oh
person?
gosh, tell us both. Tell us both if you want to. If you have two different answers, tell us both. If not, tell us like younger photographer you.
Yeah, like as a younger person, like I would probably tell myself, like, I don't have to be so angry all the time, like,
Mm,
and I don't have to have so much angst, but like that's just who I was, and like in my
mm,
teen years, and I think that's just like a product of my environment and like my like coming of age experiences and like just like the things that have they have been flows of my life and stuff. And I would probably just tell myself like, look, like things are and like not so serious all the time, which I now I don't take myself so seriously like
yeah,
I used to, but so I feel like I've learned. But as a creative, like my younger self, I feel like I would just, I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't want to change anything because I loved
I
my
love
journey.
that.
I wouldn't, like I wouldn't say anything. I'd just be like, yo, do what you're doing. I took so many risks and so many
Mm,
chances, moved to a new city with like no money, just like
yep.
went to a new school, pursued a bunch of jobs, like answered Craigslist ads randomly. Like, I took so many chances in my career that I feel like if I had that, like, if I was fearful, I feel like I would have told myself, like, yo, take those risks and they're going to pay off. But
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't change anything because like I love like everything I've learned from like the last like 15 years of being a creative, or longer, I guess now. But and that like I've loved the journey and it's really helped me shape who I am now. What I would tell other photographers
I was
maybe
about to
is,
ask that. I was literally about to be like, well, what
yeah,
would you want to tell other people?
I think people need to stop looking so outwardly
Mm,
for not just inspiration, but like for guidance, in their creative self. I think people can really lean on their own life experiences and things that really mean something to them. Whether it's against the grain or it happens to be what's trending or whatever, like really let yourself be yourself. And I think people are like, it's probably a social media thing, and we can talk about that too. But like, I think a lot of people get wrapped up in like things they think they need to do or the way that they need to be, especially in the wedding industry lately. Last
mm-hmm.
like few years, I think we've been like peppered with a lot of information and things and like expectations. And I think a lot of younger photographers are falling into this trap where they feel like they need to be somebody else to be successful. And I don't even think if you ask a lot of wedding photographers what success means to them, that they would have a legitimate like answer, because I don't think they've
Yeah.
really thought about that, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people are pursuing like artificial success versus like fulfillment and
So true.
practical success. So I feel like those people need to look more inward and like kind of understand what they're pursuing and why they're doing what they're doing, and trying to find themselves a bit more
Mm,
authentically versus letting someone else tell them like how to be authentic, you know? Like I feel like that's such
yeah.
a, you know, a shitty way to think about it. And like maybe it's because I grew up in like the skateboarding culture like super intensely. It's a very counter culture. Like you don't want to be like everybody else. You want to do your own thing. You want to be with like, you know, your friends and be cool and do like do your own you know, do your own thing and be rebellious and stuff. And I think that that kind of mindset has kind of followed me as a creative,
Mm.
and I'm really thankful for that. I really want to be myself, and I don't want to be like other people. I don't want to do what other people are doing because that's what they do. You know, I don't want to agree with people or just like people just because everybody likes them. You know, like I like to have my own personal relationships and make my own assessments of my own environment and atmosphere, and let that shape who I am versus being so influenced by outside sources, if that makes any sense.
No,
But
100%.
um,
Even if it's not being influenced by outside sources, maybe being influenced of their perception of you. Like
yeah,
that
exactly.
that could be one where recently I feel like I am like pretty vulnerable online, pretty myself, at least in my opinion. But I have realized recently, I was like, you know what? I'm going to share even more personal stuff, which also boundaries are good. You guys have boundaries. But I was just kind of like, man, I feel like I was hiding from almost a version of who I was online a little bit. No one would have ever noticed this but me. Only maybe not out of wanting to be cool, but out of maybe the fear of perception of being like not liked for who I truly was. Do you know what I mean? Like
Oh, for sure.
I'm a little hippie, but I'm from the South. Like I think, you know, religion plays into some of my fear a little bit, but like
Sure.
I just realized I was like, what is the point? It literally doesn't matter. Like it
Exactly.
genuinely doesn't matter. I can share whatever I want to. Like I just and I've never like truly like been fake online. I've never done anything like that. But just recently I went to a retreat and I loved it so much. And I just loved the people. And I was like, whoa, those were my people. I need to be even more myself because I want to attract those people. Like those are
Exactly.
my people. And I need to give even more than I'm already giving because I loved the fact that that host attracted those people because like I didn't know if I was naturally only attracting that. I mean, I've had people say like,
Yeah.
yes, Summer, you have a pretty personal brand. I do think like your people are your people, but I think at the same time, especially venturing into some of the conference space, which is a little older, a little more buttoned up, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had had this expectation that like I had to be like proper and like, do you know what I mean? And
For sure.
so it was
For
just
sure.
hard, you know, that industry is pretty proper. It is pretty buttoned up, pretty conference, you know. So trying to
Yes.
infiltrate into that scene, I think I felt obligated to kind of not be someone I'm not, but kind of hide pieces of who I am. And so
For sure.
that retreat recently was a great eye-opening experience of like who freaking cares if they don't want me at the conference. Okay, who cares? I'm out. Like it doesn't matter,
Exactly.
you know. I don't need to change any part of who I am to make it in those
100%.
spaces.
Yeah, my big sister always told me, like, she's 10 years older than I am, and she was always kind of like my biggest influence growing up because I'd steal her CDs and her music,
Mm-hmm.
and it really shaped who I became. And I remember once she dropped me off at school, and she said this quote that was obviously something that she read in a book, but she was like, you know, Brjaan, like, it's better to be hated for who you are than to be liked for being somebody that you're not. And
That's so
that like
good.
always kind of stuck with me, you know, and I feel like that way in the wedding industry because I feel
Mm-hmm.
so at arm's length with the industry because of who I am and where I came from, like in terms of like my creative journey. That, you know, like if people don't like me because I've like they think whatever they think, then like that doesn't bother me. Like I am who I am, and people who meet me in real life might have a different perception of who I am, or once they have a conversation with me, they might see I'm not so like whatever, or they might think something completely different. But it doesn't really change anything. Like what really matters to me is like what people in my actual life and around me and my circle,
Mm-hmm.
like what they think and how I make them feel and how they make me feel. I think that that's my priority. And then, you know, the online sphere, it's like cool to be liked and have a lot of followers or have respect and all that stuff. I think that that's fine and dandy, but it's not my end goal. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if people want to take the time to get to know me, then cool. Or if people want to make judgments and perception based off of perceptions they have of like my work or things I might or might not say online, then that's their prerogative. And it has like, it's no skin off my back. Like I don't really care at all. Like it doesn't mean anything to me. Like I wear what I wear, I act how I act. You know, I don't take myself too seriously. I know like this day and age, I mean, you know, like there's like this big push for like luxury in like the
Mm-hmm.
wedding space right now. And
Yeah.
like I'm like, you know what, like, you know, I'll wear what I wear to weddings. Like obviously I'm not going to wear like I'm still like dressed appropriately, but I still want to be myself and have my style. And I think that's why people want to work with me and with my wife. And I think it's not because I'm creating this persona online. It happens too often that I meet somebody that I've known from Instagram, and then I meet them in person for like a coffee or something, and their personality is just so disconnected to what they present themselves
Well,
to be online. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's so sad and just like,
yeah.
you know, and I feel bad because I feel like they have to put on this sort of front to kind of like try to get ahead or try to conform, but you don't have to do that. You know, like
Yeah.
I shot 60 weddings this year and nobody knows who I am.
It's a
So
lot of freaking
whatever.
weddings. That's a
Yeah,
lot of
it is.
weddings.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Well,
Oh
58, but
my
yeah,
gosh.
round up.
Brjaan, that's a lot of weddings. That's a
Hmm.
lot. Are you okay? How did you scan all of that? I literally
It's
what?
a little bit just, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's actually a down
I
year for
mean,
us over the
proud of
last few
you like
years.
financially, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Hmm. I mean, I love what I do, and like I love my
Yeah.
like what like you know, and I've surrounded myself with like people who can support me, and like I have my wife. Obviously, like that's split between like me and my wife. So like really, we're shooting like maybe like you know practically I'm at like maybe 40-ish weddings, and then like the other ones like Brienne's at like by herself or I'm at by myself. But you know, the year before we think we did like 70 some. The year before we did like 90 some. It was like a lot, but like that's counting like elopements and like you
Mhm.
know multi-day weekends. Like a couple of years ago, September, I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday every week that month. So like that
Whoa.
month alone, I did like 40 weddings. But like it's because I love what I do. I love taking pictures. I love making
Yeah.
films for people. I just like enjoy it. So like I didn't feel like obviously you feel a bit burnt out creatively after a while, but like you know if you're surrounding yourself with like people that can uplift you and you're working for people that are inspiring you, then I feel like
Mhm.
it's achievable, but I don't recommend it. It's achievable though, but you know
Well,
what I mean.
and the
Like for
scanning
me,
your
like
own film at that high volume is just
yeah,
wild.
that's what ate up most of my time. But like my
Yeah.
life was work for a bit, but like now we've dialed it back and we try to have more of a work life balance. So it was like pretty
Mm.
reasonable. Like I got to do a lot of my hobbies this year, but you know, like at the end of the day, I found out like what success means to me and like in my own life, and it wasn't about being like cool and like impressing people on like Instagram or anything else. And you know, I just want to kind of do what I do and kind of keep pushing forward without kind
Yeah.
of feeling like the need to conform to those things. Like I don't make like crazy reels and I don't try to rage bait people with
Brjann's
like
like, I'm coming at
reels
summer
and
right now.
stuff.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm
No, no,
kidding.
no, no. I mean, I was going to ask you about that. I'm like, I mean, you like, it's not just for photography. Like you're building a community, and I
Mhm.
understand like making content like that is great because it makes you approachable and it makes you, it kind of shows people like what it would be like to, because you're going to be face to face with these people in a more like
Yeah.
convenient and or more traditional sense. Like if they're going to your summer camp and they're going to be
Yeah.
around you, like people want to get to know you. That makes complete
Yeah.
sense. But like for me, like you know, it's not even like doing content reels I get, but like a lot of people will make content reels to like rage bait people to like get
Yeah.
engagement. Like I'm just not about that. Like I don't really
My
care
like
about like doing
only
stuff like
rage
that.
bait,
So
which isn't even rage bait on my personal account, is the fact that whenever I use the Godox Lux Master, people just love to comment. They don't comment hate. It's not bad. They're just like I'm like, hey, that's like my version of rage bait because I don't like being like
yeah,
I don't like controversy. I don't like controversy. I'm a very
yeah, yeah,
like
confrontational.
middle
Yeah,
ground human. That's just who I am. But summer school with releasing like clips of the podcast, we have had some. I've been a little more outspoken, I guess, and
sure.
that's been a little intense. But it's fine. I don't care if anyone actually got to know me. I think we would all have a great time.
Exactly,
So I'm not
exactly.
worried. But it is funny putting myself in that place. But I realized that we had the podcast, so I'll be listening, over 2 years. And I
Wow.
had never really posted about it because with Summer Grace photo, I still want to shoot. Like I like taking photos, Some
Hmm.
educators, I don't know, they just like never take photos again. But like I like taking photos and I like shooting weddings, and it was just not meshing for me that I would be like marketing my education that much with my current wedding clientele that still really respects my work. I just didn't love that being on one platform. So, Summer School's Instagram, if you guys aren't following and you're listening to this, you better be following after this. But yeah, that's kind of how cranking out content on their birth was like, dude, we got to get more people listening to the pod. I'm having such
Of
sick
course.
guests on. I'm recording video now. Like, I just need to start posting about it. And I do think we have had like an uptick in people listening, which is really freaking fun. And the getting the content outside of it is not hard. If anyone's listening and you create long form content, we throw it through a software called Opus, and it just kind of like AI clips all the videos that you see on the reels. So it's really not too complicated, but
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
so like that's like understandable, but like yeah, I don't know. I feel like the industry just kind of wants to push us into doing certain things or following certain trends, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to be a
Yeah.
part of like I don't want to be another cog in the wheel. Like, be like
Mm,
right now, it's like the whole luxury thing, and if somebody met me, they would be like, "You're the furthest thing from like that vibe," But even though like my prices would reflect luxury, but like, and the people I work with don't necessarily reflect it either. But it's just
mm-hmm.
like an interesting balance that people have to kind of like it's a journey you got to take on your own, and you got to ask yourself like, what are you trying to achieve, what are you trying to accomplish, like what circles are you trying to be a part of. Like
Yeah.
for me, like I try to be grounded in reality, and like the people around me in my actual life are really important to me. I'm lucky a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my friends are creatives, but they're not creatives in the wedding sphere, and that
Yeah.
keeps me grounded, and it kind of gives me new perspective on things. Oh, my light fell off. But yeah, it gives me a lot of perspective on like life, and just trying to kind of achieve some level of happiness, without getting too like um corny about it. But yeah,
No, yeah.
I don't know, I feel like the industry is just like it's a black void, it's a pit, sometimes that I don't want to be in
Uh,
it.
I actually, I'll wrap us up ish here. Well, you might have something to say on it, but I actually felt trapped to the feeling like I needed to be a luxury wedding photographer. And I'm not saying there's anything bad with being a luxury wedding photographer. I have a
Yeah,
ton
same
of
same.
friends in that industry. I, went to some of the networking events and did all the things and wore the nice clothes. But man, I really resonated with my like mid luxury or like mid maybe high end not luxury. Like I just really resonated with that clientele after I tried to branch into a higher tier, and I was like, screw this, and I like dropped my prices by like $2,000 because I was like, I don't know, I like those people, and I think I felt obligated as an educator to be at the highest tier
Right.
of whatever. But I was also humbled once when I asked someone like their take home. And because oftentimes those events require larger teams, require
Yep.
paying more for,
Yeah, yeah,
your
exactly.
assistants, your employees, and their take home was like basically the same as mine if I just do it with me and my husband.
Exactly.
And I was like,
Hmm.
maybe I don't want this. It is oftentimes
Yeah.
a lot for image than it is
Yeah.
because people actually want it. And I think for the people that actually want it, you should freaking do it. But if you're
Of
doing
course.
it just because you think it'll make you look cooler or look better, reevaluate.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's funny, like the whole video thing has kind of given me like a look behind the curtain over the last
Mm-hmm.
like 3 or 4 years. Cause like I've been hired for videos, to shoot videos at weddings that have had like super high end, like top tier, like luxury photographers from Canada or the US. And I've worked alongside them at these events. Like I'm also like essentially your peer at this wedding, even though
Yeah.
like I'm not like in that category. Like at least I don't think I am. And it's just like they're just like everybody else, they don't really do anything differently. It's just like right now it's
It's
like a
just who you
trend.
know.
It's like it's who it's like a trend to kind of like try to like cater to some sort of market that may or may not actually exist. And I don't know, it's just a weird thing. I think it like if you're shooting weddings and you're making enough money to live and you're happy, and like I don't know, you need to label it or you need to pursue anything specifically like that makes any. If you want to kind of like feel like that, then cool and go for
And
it.
if you're
But
into it, I have
for
friends who are
me,
like, that's just who they are. And I'm like, freaking
sure, yeah,
pursue it.
exactly.
But I also think there's a common misconception that luxury photographers make more money. And I think
Yeah,
oftentimes, I'm not saying every time, oftentimes they're doing less weddings than someone in an average
exactly.
market. And so
Correct.
oftentimes the income for if you're both successful, you're successful in the average market, high end market, luxury market. If you are just successful in those markets, oftentimes they're all making about the same amount. Sometimes my luxury friends were making less take home at the end of the day because they were getting less work because there are less millionaires in the world than normal
Yeah,
humans.
exactly.
It's just a fact. It is literally just a fact. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to be luxury. I'm just saying I think for the industry and for if there are more beginners listening to this or people that are considering it, it's like I think oftentimes there's all these education of like you low key you want to be a millionaire, be a luxury wedding photographer. And I'm like, there's a reason they're teaching. It's because they did not make enough when they were shooting the luxury weddings. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. That's a hot take. But like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Just look
I
at
mean,
everything
it's
objectively, you know?
yeah, I mean, social media is a lie. Just like everything you see online, just take it with a grain of salt. Like, trust me,
Yeah.
I've gotten to see behind the curtain way more like at these like events. Like I never associated myself with some of these people, but like the clients are hiring me. The same clients are hiring me, and then I'm there and I'm seeing them work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing what they do. I have conversations with them, like real conversations, because like I'm like a down to earth guy. Like I can talk to anybody about anything, and like
Yeah.
people reveal things, like and I know the truth, and it's just like like people aren't what they make themselves out to be online all the time, and I think you got to take everything with a grain of salt and not feel so pressured by these things you see that may or may not be real because
Yes.
I don't know because like and like now like agencies are becoming a new thing. I've been like a lot of people are talking to me about that about like trying to get represented by an agent and stuff, which is like a funny thing because when I
It
was in
is,
the commercial
yeah.
industry, I knew all about that and I know the realities of things like that, but like now it's coming into the wedding world and I'm just so confused. I don't really get
I
it,
think
but
it,
maybe
it
I'm not
might
supposed to get it.
succeed in the luxury space, only in the luxury
So
space. There's no way that this would
yeah,
ever infiltrate the normal wedding industry. But I like
yeah,
thinking about the luxury industry. For anyone that watches like Selling Sunset or something, it's like, these
yeah,
people selling these homes, it's because they know millionaires. It's not because they're skilled in selling the homes. So, like,
that's right,
genuinely, an agency structure could work really well in the
for
luxury
sure.
industry because, like, you have to know the wealthy people to shoot the wealthy people's weddings. You know what I mean? And
For
so if
sure.
you were just a photographer with good work, you got to know the wedding planner, you got to know whatever. And so like, agencies could help cut out that struggle of, paying to go to $10,000 to go to something like Engage. It's like, dude, if you could land signing with an agency instead, that might be more worth your time and money. So I'm like, you know what? I don't think it's like a horrible concept, kind of like a brokerage with luxury real estate. That you got the head people that know some of the clients that feed them to the agents. I think it could work. I don't see a world where it should work in the normal wedding industry.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like when I was in the commercial space and I was like approached by agencies to be represented, and then I read the fine print, I like it wasn't for me, and I kind of turned that away, and I didn't want to be in that
Yeah.
environment. But like I have commercial photographers now, like the what happens like usually in those markets, eventually things get saturated, and then
Hmm.
you're competing with your
Once there's
peers
too
for
many agencies,
jobs.
what's the point?
Too many agencies or too many people
Yeah.
being represented by agents, and then you're competing with each other for one client, two clients, three clients, and then work actually minimizes, and then with the work you do get, there's a big a large cut that has to go to someone or someone else. And so it's just like it's funny because like like a lot of things that like I've experienced like through my journey, whether it's through shooting for news and photojournalism, because like that was a big thing in the wedding industry for a while, and then when I went to commercial, now that's kind of seeping into the wedding industry. And it's just like it's very interesting to me how the wedding industry like takes these things from other industries instead of just kind of being its own thing. I don't really, it's funny, it's
Yeah.
just like it's interesting to see it like over the like last 10 years like how these things have
Yeah.
changed. Because I remember like before, being a photojournalistic or whatever that means photographer was like considered the luxury photographer, and now it's evolving to being something else, and everybody's telling people like what is this and that. And I don't know, it's just like it's way too, it's just like I don't want to be bothered by that stuff, but that's me. But I respect people who are like trying to do something different, and good for them, and I'm happy that the industry is evolving, I guess, like for hopefully the better. But yeah, I mean, to each their own.
Okay, so we had a little brief intermission because baby needed a pacifier and those were missing. So, anyways, if you don't know that part of my life, I do have a kid. So it makes working pretty crazy, but also pretty awesome. And so, Brjaan, this has been such a fun convo. I feel like we talked about luxury enough. I love that we actually hit on it because it totally was not planned in our like agenda. Not that I ever really have one anyways, but I love that we hit on it. I feel like a lot of people don't talk openly about it, especially people that have seen it, because it can come off maybe insensitive or who knows what.
Sure.
I don't really care. I don't care what kind of money you're charging. I think you can be a great photographer, and you don't have to be in the luxury industry to be the best photographer, which is what our industry gives and makes people believe sometimes. So I love that we chatted
Hmm.
about it, because if you're listening to this and you are one, cool. I don't like, that's great. That's freaking great for you. And if you're wanting to be one with not good intention, reevaluate. And if you aren't one, you want to feel validated, we're here to tell you it just doesn't even matter. So I don't know. I love that we segued that way, but I think I want to wrap us, purely because we still have a recess episode to do. And we've already
Cool.
chatted for literally like over an hour, which is so freaking fun. But recess, for anyone listening, is the exclusive version of our podcast where we kind of dive into like the nitty gritty. So normally I ask more specific questions. Maybe it's a little less conversational, but if you want to learn from things that he said, which I'm freaking stoked for, because feel like you are like a well of like nerdy wisdom, go ahead and join our little paid community. And if you want to wait a day and you're listening to this the day that this releases, our Black Friday deal starts tomorrow. So it will be a
Nice.
crazy freaking deal. You can join the whole community for only $300 for the whole year, which I think breaks down to like only $25 a month, which is
That's a great deal.
outrageous for what's inside of it. So yeah, if you guys want to hop in there and you've been waiting, this is your time. Just wait like 8 more hours and you can hear Brjaan and I rant about more nerdy film things. So I'm freaking stoked. But in the
Hell yeah.
meantime, I want you to tell everyone, in case they're audio only, where they can find you, where they can look at your work, what you're up to. If there's anything you want to tell them about that you'd love to offer, or just anything you'd love to say, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram. My IG is 3B Photography, the number 3, letter B Photography. That's just like my initials, and my name is a lot. So 3B Photography. 3bphoto.ca is like my wedding work. That's my wedding Instagram. And then my name, Brjaan.com, BRJANN.com. If you're interested in seeing some of like my editorial or grant-based like artist work, then you can go see that there. And yeah, I'm always willing to chat. I love talking to people. So if you hit me up on DMs or anything like that, you'll most likely hear back from me. And I'm always an open book when it comes to stuff. I don't really gatekeep too much about anything except for music that I like. But other than that,
I'm going to need that.
yeah,
I'm going to need the
So,
music.
yeah. But
I'm
other
going
than
to need
that, yeah,
you to do that.
yeah, people can find me like on socials like that, and happy to chat. But this is wonderful, and I really appreciate it. It's really cool. I might have to join your community so that I can be a part of that as well, and just like chat with a bit more people. But yeah, this was really fun. It was such an easygoing conversation. I always appreciate talking to like-minded people. I think it's like such a privilege.
Man, well, it was so good having you on. I feel like that was such fun. I actually think me and Brjaan could have like a 2-hour episode. So maybe he'll have to do a workshop in summer school one day or something. Because I feel like we could have literally just kept talking. But yeah, you guys, if you valued this conversation and you feel like someone in your life or in your that you follow, if you feel like they need to hear this, go ahead and share it to your story and tag us, because that would mean the world to me. I'll share it on my stories, tag Summer Grace, tag Brjaan. Like, I would love to share it on mine as well. So go ahead and share this with a friend, put on your stories, leave a review if you would like to, so that I can get more amazing guests like Brjaan on, because that really helps with like the future of the pod. So I will catch you guys all super soon. Definitely hit the show notes right now for information on joining summer school, and go ahead and hop in that pre-sale if you would like to get one of the seats for summer camp before it sells out. But in the meantime, that's really all for now. I'm sure there's so much more. Black Friday coming up is crazy. So definitely stay tuned on my Instagram. I'll be chatting and posting about all of my favorite companies as well that are doing deals, because I'm from the South. I love a good deal. But that's all.
Who doesn't?
That's literally all. I will catch you guys soon, and I will be chatting with all of you next week. Thanks, Brjaan. Bye.
No problem. Thanks, Summer.